Oops, misgendered myself. Yes, so... don't want to spend too much time on this. I go by he, they pronouns now. I may fall further down the rabbit hole of being an NB later. Yeah. Also, I love wearing dresses, just... I'm gorgeous in this, and it's a crime I haven't appeared on camera in a dress before. Just... wow, everyone has missed out, including myself, so... at least I'm with you in there. Anyways, we're gonna talk about books I've read during February. In addition to all this going on, I kinda also got a job. Which sucks because now I've only read like 3 books during this time. I could have spent the last month of February, or the last week of February, really storming through to get at least 3, 4 books, I can count, done, but I was busy just discovering all this. So, yeah, let's sit down. Made some notes. So we're just gonna talk about books, and it's gonna be a good time. The first thing I read was Odens Child. Odens Child is about Hirka, who lives in a world of magic where creatures from another world are feared. There's just one problem. She is of another world. Odens Child is like fantasy, but a little bit weak in how magic is represented. Like, I never know quite where it can go, but it is really good, and because magic doesn't feel like it can do all that much, it feels very grounded as well, even though magic can sort of do stuff. It's very loose, so there's a lot of possibility to just do whatever you want with it. Now, what is really fun about this book is specifically Hirka. In fantasy, it's very common for the main protagonist to be stronger than everyone else, but here it is quite the opposite, because everyone has some semblance of magic in them, and then you have Hirka who has no power because she's a human from our world, or as close to our world as we can get. But that's super fun. I really enjoy the subversion in that way of telling the story. Also, as an anarchist, it is lovely to see when someone questions authority, which is being done a lot in this book. It also specifically mentions how the powerful ones exploit others to stay on top of the food chain, which is just, the saying, best way to get rich is to have rich parents. I don't think that's a saying, that's just a fact. Yeah, that's very much represented in this, even though, money isn't such a thing about it. Now, I hate to say this because I actually know the author, but the writing in the first one is a little bit weak. Like, I've started on the second one. Much better writing, so, she improved a lot. But it's still a problem in this one. A lot of people who reviewed this said, oh, it's so badly written I couldn't finish it, or, oh, it's really good except for the writing. Which sucks. There's also another issue I have with this, and that's the fact that there's like a relationship between a 15-year-old and 18-year-old, which that's kind of yikes. When I mentioned that to my mother, who has also read this book, she said, I can't believe you're from Yes I'm, because that's like the most common thing there, and how Jesus Christ, doesn't matter where you geographically from, you can just have common sense. It's still good. I recommend getting it. It is recently been translated from what I hear, so check it out. I just realized I watched Curio's video on being non-binary, and I cried so fucking hard because I needed it. and I haven't done any freshening up, so I might look like a mess. I'm not gonna refilm this. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is the Norwegian comic Dragens Øye, or Dragon's Eye. I already made a video on this, but I tagged it as LGBT, so it might have been hidden from people actually seeing it. Which sucks. You can just watch the video, but if you want the basics of why I want it translated, it features a non-binary main character, and it's very important that non-binary identities get accepted as normal, because being harassed for being trans is not cool. I found that out today. That's actually a lot. I don't want to leave tomorrow, but I have to because of work. Like, I just want to stay home and read. But, you know, if you could do that for me, just normalize being non-binary a little bit more. That would be very nice. Thank you. Now, the final book I read was The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. And I know I haven't mentioned the other authors, but there's a reason. After the original author of A Monster Calls sadly died before she could complete it, Patrick Ness had to take over. And it is one of the best books about grief and having to experience death at a young age that I've ever read. The main crux of it is basically it's okay to be selfish about not wanting someone to die, because I feel like it's very ingrained in us that, like, oh, you should feel sorry for them. If you feel sorry for yourself for not being able to experience something with that person again, that's kind of bad, but you should be sad for what everything they couldn't experience. Blah blah blah. That's a self-destructive path of thoughts that I would never recommend to anyone experiencing, because fucking god, I have regrets about how I've handled some death because of that. But anyways, what is The Rest of Us Just Live Here about? The Rest of Us Just Live Here is about a world where heroes are real, but it's about the lives of average teens in the world. And I say average, but they're a little bit weird. I had high expectations for this, and to a certain extent it manages to deliver very well. The characters and their interactions are just beautiful, mature, very nice. I would totally recommend picking it up just because of the characters. Now, while I think Odens Child manages to stave off being ableist, The Rest of Us Just Live Here kind of explore having mental health problems extremely well, and as someone with a lot of anxiety because of my personality disorder, and now because of my transness, I swear I didn't mean for all of this to be about this, but I mean, how could it not be? It's very well done. It really points towards these forced thoughts that you don't want in your head, but they come in anyways. And, you know, if you want to read about that and know what hell we live with every day, because you have no idea, because you grew up healthy, which, what the fuck? Pick this up and you'll have, like, a little bit of an idea of how someone may experience their mental health problems. And it's great at just how it writes the story. A little bit at first, I was a little bit disappointed that it seemed to avoid the conflict between the parent and the main character. But later it goes into, like, way more serious conflicts, and you're like, oh shit. Oh fuck. There are some problems. Okay, so the fact that this is a superhero quote-unquote world is actually a little bit wrong. It's like a protagonist world where they're not the protagonists. So, you know, you have these people called indie kids, who are the kids that these plots are happening to. they start experiencing things. So you get sentences like, "Oh, it was way easier when indie kids were just beautifully dying of cancer rather than vampires attacked school." That's a fun idea, but when the story starts being a lot about that, it kind of takes over and it feels more like a commentary on other stories than anything else. Now, that being said, the story with the indie kids is cleverly put in and super fun, where there's like a summary at the beginning of what the indie kids are going through in a very oldish book style that used to be a lot more in books. I think that's fun because I'm a nerd. But again, it's a little bit like, is this a story or is this a comment on other stories? Don't quite know. And then, you have my biggest issue. See if I need to actually read this correctly. Feels like it wants to discourage people taking action to make things better and just wait for things to get better. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. I still liked it. Would I recommend it? Yeah, if you like books for the couple first reasons that I mentioned, but the others, not so much. Anyways, I'm going to keep making some stuff. I know I haven't been that active last month, but I have some ideas, and I'm very close to finishing the script for my A Nightmare on Elm Street video, which will be the second video I will make about A Nightmare on Elm Street, because it turns out my introduction video of how to get into it, that script, is a little bit long, a little bit detailed, and now it's just gonna be a full-on analysis. Anyways, see you in the next video. Goodbye. Oh yeah, and if I didn't say it at the beginning, if you don't accept my pronouns or trans identities in general, you should fuck right off. I don't care if I have few subscribers or almost no money on Patreon. Oh yeah, there's a Patreon you can probably sponsor. Whatever, fuck you.